Hello and welcome everyone. Today I will be covering 5 habits to improve your chess. And while I talk about those, I also have some tactical problems here that you can take a look at and try and solve while I'm covering those 5 habits. So, what habits do you use to improve your chess? Well, there are many different things you can do. The 5 I will recommend. The first one being to play daily. So that's very important because whatever you do to try and improve your chess, you have to see if it's working or not by playing daily if you can. Even if it's just a few blitz games or one slower game. That is always a good piece of advice to follow, is to just try and play at least a little bit of chess every day, and you will see yourself improve if you do that on a regular basis, as long as you're trying to figure out what you're doing wrong in the games that you're losing, and try and learn at least one lesson from each game that you play and try and improve by using that lesson learned. All right, this first tactical problem here, if you've been taking a look at it, it is white's turn to move. What do you think white should do in this position? Pause the video if you need more time to think about it. If not, let's take a look here. All right, so this one was a little tricky. Rook to e8 is the best move here. So if we turn on the evaluation, we see white is winning, and there's a mate in 15, but I didn't expect you to see that, of course, unless you're a chess master out there. All right, so, and even some chess masters may not catch that. All right, so rook to e8, and what that does, it attacks the queen, and it will pull the queen away from the defense of this knight. So it shows that the best move is, well, at least 3 options here, but the computer recommends just giving up the queen and letting it be captured by the rook, but then white would be ahead in material and winning. So, probably the queen would capture, but then we have queen captures with check. The king would have to move to the only square possible, rook to king to g8, and then the bishop moves to h6, threatening a mate in 1 here. So that would have to be stopped, and the only way is to, one way is to check here, and then then you just capture the queen. So, after this block, we have this, and now there's another threat here, and nothing can be done. So, mate in 1 no matter what black does. So, I hope you found that move. That was a little tricky, that rook to g8 move. So, once again, the first habit to follow is to play daily, just to practice, whatever you're learning, try and see if it works in your games, but daily play does help. All right, habit number 2 is to analyze often. So it's always good to go over your games, even if it's just a quick review to see what you think you did wrong, what you could have improved on. But the more time you spend on analyzing your games, the better, because you may unlock deeper secrets, better plans and ideas by figuring out, what you should have done better, what tactics you missed. You can learn a lot from analyzing your games, especially the ones that you lose. All right, let's go on to a second problem here. And let me make sure, hopefully you didn't see the answer. All right, so what does white do in this position? White to win here. Pause the video if you want to take a longer look at it. But back to analyzing often. So, if you can analyze every game you play, that's ideal. But, I realize everybody has a limited amount of time on what they can do as far as studying chess, how much they can play. So, just if you do some analyzing, that's better than nothing. Just go over your games and try and see what you can learn from them. All right, in this problem, I'll turn on the answer here. So white is winning, and it looks like the best move here is queen captures the knight. So then if the queen recaptures, well, then we have a fork here between the king and the queen. So the king would move and white would be way ahead in material here. So another option that the computer recommends is after after the queen captures that knight, so back to the beginning, queen captures, the computer recommends just protecting the queen with a rook. So maybe this move, but then you're already ahead. You can just trade down material, and then you're just ahead an extra bishop here and a pawn. So you could try and maybe protect this pawn, but white should be winning here. All right, so we covered playing daily and analyzing often. So play as much as you can and go over your games to see what you can learn from them. So the third habit is to study daily if you can. I realize once again everybody is busy, and so while I talk about that, let me pull up another tactic for you to look at. All right, let's see. All right, take a look at this one. And here, let's see, it is, I don't know why that arrow popped up. I thought I had those turned off. But anyway, it is white's turn to move here. So, what does white do in this position to win? So back to studying daily. Any study is better than nothing, but try to study. That goes back to analyzing. Analyze your games, study your games to see what you can improve on, what you did wrong, but then figure out what you need work on. Studying tactics is probably where you will get the most value for your time, because unless you're a 2000 rated player or higher, and even then, you can always improve your tactics. So most games are lost because of some just blunder or overlooked little tactical error. So, start there when you're studying. Try and do a lot of tactics study, and then look at end games. I know everybody wants to learn openings, but when you're studying openings, it can just suck up so much of your time because there's so many variations and different openings that one good recommendation I saw was by a player who they were studying, trying to get to 2000, and they didn't really study too much in the opening, especially when they were starting out at a lower rating and just beginning. They would just try and improve one move at a time. So they would pick one good opening with white, one good opening with black, and depending on what your opponent played, just try to pick one move and just remember that one better move each time. So, if you play like e4, e5, and then you want to play knight to f3, well, then you just start deciding what your third move will be depending on what your opponents are playing. And you gradually add to that. That way you're not trying to memorize, 10, 15 move variations in different openings. You're just gradually improving your game one move at a time, and so it's not as overwhelming. All right, back to this problem here. If you haven't found the answer yet, pause the video. If not, let's take a look. So we have white winning, and queen to g5 is the only move here because black is ahead by one pawn's worth of material here. So let's see, 5, yeah, actually one pawn. So queen to g5 turns the tables here and is winning for white. So after this move, the threat is a little checkmate pattern here. So in your daily study, I would definitely prioritize tactics, study little checkmate patterns, forks, skewers, pins, like different tactics. But here, this gives us two different checkmate patterns. One is using a knight and queen to work together and try and checkmate on queen to g7 here. And the other one is a back rank mate, capturing the rook, checking the king, and the queen would block but then be captured. But the computer recommends king to f8 here, just giving up the rook. So after capture, now white is just ahead. And if a block here, white can go ahead even further in material by capturing this knight, or just capture the queen and then capture a pawn and just be ahead in material. So anyway, white should be winning, and that queen to g5 move was the tactical move threatening. If I go back here, it's threatening two checkmates at the same time, and black cannot stop both of those. So, well, I guess by moving the king, that slowed the attack down. So technically it did stop both of those, but it gave white a winning threat and would capture material and end up winning here. All right, so play daily, analyze your games often, study daily, prioritizing tactics. Then I would study, end games, strategy, openings. I wouldn't dig into that too much until you become higher rated, up to 15, 1600, even 1800. I've read where some chess players didn't deeply study openings until they hit 2000. So, their tactics were just good enough for them to find the right moves. So study those tactics. And, you can do some opening study, but I wouldn't, spend all of your time on opening study. I would recommend that one move improvement after each game. Just find the one better opening move you could make and gradually build your opening repertoire until you are playing better over time. All right, so next, let me bring up another problem here. I'll turn off the evaluation and lines, and all right, so okay, so this next problem, once again, it is white to move here. And now moving on to the fourth chess habit here, prioritizing your study, which I kind of covered that a little bit in studying daily, but I would prioritize tactics. Just go over tactics a little bit each day. If you only have time to study one thing, study tactics. Play regularly, as much as you can, and then try and incorporate those tactics that you're learning into your games. So tactics. Then end games are very important because a lot of people neglect the end games. Maybe they find them boring. But the more you learn about end games and the more you end up winning by having better end game knowledge, you will hopefully enjoy them more. So study tactics, study end games, then strategy, learn about pawn structure and outposts and bishops versus knights, just all the different material on strategy out there. And tactics, you can just study tactical problems or puzzles, review your games and look for tactics. The same with strategy, but you may need to dive into videos or books or whatever you can find online on strategy, because there's a lot of material on strategy as well. And then try and play every day and analyze your games. All right, so back to this problem. So once again, pause if you need to. Here's the answer. So white is winning, and the best move is knight to d5 here. So, a little tricky, but what this does is attack the queen, and it threatens a mate with the queen up here to h8. So, the best recommendation is still a mate in 13, is for the king to just run. But if the king runs, the queen will just be captured. So let's say if the knight, if the knight was captured, here's the mate that I was talking about. So another little mating pattern here, a back rank mate where the queen cuts off the g7 square and mates on the back rank. But if the king tried to run, then we would just have a queen capture, king captures, queen can capture again. If the rook blocks, well, then we have this little trick here, this tactic that pulls the king away, and then a capture. So then the king would be forced to move, but then we have bishop to f6 here, threatening a check here, and then a mate. If the rook would try, to block this check, well, then there's a mate here. So anyway, I hope you found that. Let's move on here. I'll pull up another problem. Okay. And hopefully you didn't see that. All right. Well, let's see now. Well, reviewing, we covered play daily. So definitely play as much as you can. If you don't have much time, try to play at least one game a day. And then analyze often, go over the games that you play, try and figure out what you're doing wrong and improve. Study daily. Maybe use half of your time to play and analyze your games, and then the other half of your time prioritize tactics, end games, strategy, and then openings. But until you get up to a higher rating level, I would recommend just trying to make one move improvements in your openings. That way you're not overwhelmed and trying to memorize too much. All right, so the daily study we covered, prioritizing your study, and the final thing is to have fun. So that is very important, because a lot of times you'll be trying to learn all this new material on chess, and it can be overwhelming. And especially if you're trying to learn a subject that's not your favorite, you might get a little burnout, or if you're just playing kind of poorly, and you're getting kind of burnt out on chess, maybe you need a break, or switch things up. If you really like opening study and it's really fun to you, then take some time and dive into what you find to be more fun, because if you're not enjoying chess, then you're less likely to keep playing and you won't improve as much. All right, so let's take a look at this problem here. All right, pause if you have to. Okay, so the best move here, and it's white's turn to move, was bishop to c2. So this one is a little tricky. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but bishop to c2 is the only move that keeps white ahead in this position, because it attacks the queen. And so if this bishop is captured by the queen or the knight, then we just have queen captures with mate up here on d8. So that is the threat. This move that discovers an attack on the rook on d8, but the bishop also is attacking the queen here. So what could white do? The computer recommends just rook to d7, giving up the queen, but then white is just ahead. Another possibility, let's see what this does. Rook takes d1, but then we just have the other rook coming over, and that threat is renewed here. So, then what can black do? The best move it shows is blocking with the knight, but then once again we just capture the queen. All right, well, that was a little tricky. I hope you found that. I will review these 5 habits to improve your chess, and while I do that, I will give you one more problem to check out. Let me turn off these evaluations. All right. Okay, hopefully you didn't see all the answers there. Okay, so in this problem, once again, is white to move. What does white do here to gain the winning advantage? If we look at it, let's see, piece-wise, it looks like everything is even, I believe. Yes, material is even, but white's king is safe and black's is kind of stuck in the middle there, and the pieces are a little uncoordinated compared to white's, and white has more control of the center. All right, so to review these 5 habits to improve your chess, we covered playing daily. Very important, because whatever you study and are trying to work on and improve on, playing regularly is a way to see if what you're learning and trying to fix or improve, if it's working or not. So definitely try and play daily, even if it's just 1 game a day. Then analyze often. Go over your games as much as you can. If you don't have much time, just try and review what you can, see what tactics you may have missed or strategies, moves that you made that were bad that you can try and improve on, especially if it's a recurring theme that you need work on. So definitely try and analyze your games. And I would recommend going over the games yourself and seeing what you can find. And then if you have more time, go over the computer afterwards, so the computer will catch things that you'll miss because of just all that computing power. It finds a lot of things that us humans will, not be able to see. All right, so play daily, analyze often, study daily. So when you study, prioritize your study. So tactics. Definitely go over tactics every day if you can, even if it's just for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Some kind of tactical problems, to learn checkmate patterns, to learn forking patterns and skewers, all the different tactics out there, discovered attacks. And the more you go over those, the more you'll start to see those patterns in your game. And that's probably one of the fastest ways you can improve, is just by studying tactics every day. All right, so then prioritize your study. So, play, I would say use half of your time to play and then go over your game. And then, for your other half of your study time, prioritize tactics. Then try and do a little bit of endgame study, strategy study, and then openings. Until you get to a higher rating, then you might need to learn more about openings. But in the beginning, just try and improve 1 move at a time so you're not overwhelmed. And the final habit is to have fun, because if you're not having fun and you get burnout in chess, you may quit or not study as much as you would otherwise. If you're having fun, you'll be more likely to study a lot more and learn a lot more. So if you're getting burnt out on end games or strategy or tactics, and you like openings, okay, then put more time into opening study. But whatever you're doing, have fun. All right, this final problem, another tricky one. So pause the video if you need more time. If not, here we go. White is winning, and looks like knight takes f5, so a little tricky. Bishop to b5 is also a good move. So white has different options, but it looks like knight captures on f5 is the best move. And then if that knight were just captured, well, then we have a mate in 3 with knight to f6 check. If the queen captures, we have queen to d8 check. And then after the bishop captures, we have a discovered double check here, where the bishop moves out of the way. The rook is attacking and the bishop at the same time. So whenever two pieces are checking the king at the same time, the only way to get out of that is for the king to move. But here he cannot move anywhere, as this pawn is blocking his escape, and the rook and bishop are also cutting him off while checking him at the same time. All right, and if we go back and see what the computer recommends after knight takes f5, the computer recommends bishop to d7, and then it's a little bit more complicated. We have bishop to b5, putting pressure on that, but then, capture now, check. There are just so many options here. And this is just one possibility. So another reason to study tactics, because then you will be able to see more clearly these crazy complicated lines. And I know this one was a little more complicated, and you could set this up and go over it because there are a lot of different options. So this would be an interesting way to study tactics, is to look at a problem with multiple possibilities, and you can see the little smaller tactics that combine together into longer combinations of moves. All right, well, the video has gone on for quite a bit here. Thank you if you've hung around for these 5 habits to improve your chess, which were to play daily, analyze often, study daily, prioritize your study, and have fun. That's probably the most important of all, to have fun, because that will encourage you to keep improving your chess. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you.